Hello, my friends. I'm Rachel Archelaus, founder of the Intuitive Art Academy. This is Carrie Roldan, and we are here today to talk about insecurity and your weirdness and how they're related, how they're wonderful, and hopefully today we can all find more acceptance of ourselves, see how this weirdness is really the thing that differentiates us in the world and is our special sauce that we're here to share, and also find a little bit of ease and more confidence because huge things can happen when we start to embrace this part of ourselves.
So, hey everybody. Hey Guillaume, I love that you are excited about this topic. I'm wondering, Rachel, if you had already decided on this topic, or if part of it was you listening to me ramble on and on about being insecure about the way that I was delivering feedback to somebody. Did that have anything to do with this topic?
No, but it was you that helped me see this because what happened? Oh, last week I met with a literary manager about my screenwriting work, and the thing that she was most interested in was the thing I wasn't even thinking to share because it's like, who's going to be interested in that? It's like totally weird. It's not done yet, but she was like, yes, that the market is ready for that. I want that now. And I was like, I've been shown this lesson over and over and over in my entire life. All the things I think are too weird are always the things that are most important in my life at that time. So we all have these things, which is why I thought it would be a great topic. So, Carrie, do you want to talk about that thing you're talking about now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of wanted to talk about like where do these insecurities come from, right? Because they actually, at least for me, a lot of the things that I'm insecure about come from when I was little, expressing in that way and being told that's not polite, that's not really how things are done. Maybe don't be too much, right? Like you're too bossy, you're too, like, right, whatever. And this came from maybe teachers, parents, right? It came from well-meaning adults around me trying to help me, right? Like it came from a good place. But what all children do, right? Our subconscious just kind of absorbs and tells stories around whatever feedback we are given. So I can't say that I ever remember being told you're too bossy or you're too critical, right? But that is definitely what I heard. Now, I may have heard. I can actually hear my mom's voice being like, she was saying, "Now, Carrie, don't judge," right? Which is one of the things that Rachel and I were talking about. That this is tangent. I have realized that I am at once super judgy and non-judgmental. Like I am both those things simultaneously. But the situation that has arisen is people regularly ask me for feedback, right? And I actually know I have lots and lots and lots of experience with people telling me like, "Hey, will you take a look at this thing for me?" Whether it's my sales page or will you read this, like people ask me regularly, "Will you take a look at this?" And I have years of feedback from people who I've given feedback to saying, that was so valuable. Thank you so much. I am so grateful for the way you said that, right? Like all of it. And yet, there is a story inside of me that says, Carrie, you are too critical. Be careful. So we just had this, Rachel and I have a friend who's writing an incredible book, like an amazing book that the world needs. And I am like the ideal audience for this book. Like I am ready for this information. And she asked us, will you take a look at our chapters or my chapters so far? And I had feedback immediately. And it was loving and true and exactly what she wanted and needed to hear. It just wasn't what I thought she wanted to hear. I knew that's what she needed to hear, but I thought she wanted to hear, your book is amazing. I love it. Keep everything the way that it is. And instead, it was, your book is amazing and I love it, but I got to be honest here. Right? And then there was like some critical feedback that came after that. but helpful. Anyways, the reason I'm telling all this is because I got myself all tied in knots. Like, I didn't want to tell her. Like, it was this whole thing. And I finally like sent what I sent. And even when I sent it, I was super insecure about it. And like, I'm just going to do a little bit. Let me know. And of course, her feedback was like, please more. And so the lesson, and oh my God, thank you. And yes, I was thinking that too. Or, oh, I had a hard time. Yeah, you gave voice to what I was trying to say. Like, all of it worked out perfectly. And it was just a reminder to me, like, I want to say don't edit yourself. And yet I'm editing before I can say that out loud. Like, I am self-editing. You watched me. But it is okay. It is okay to be yourself and to trust that if it's coming from love, it's okay. And so this isn't really like what's weird about me, Rachel. There's plenty of weird things that I have been insecure about, and we can talk about those in a minute. But this is something like, it is a talent that I have that I'm insecure about because I feel like people don't want to be criticized. Even though people are like, will you please critique this?
I'm one of those people, I'm like, give me the real stuff. I want to make this thing as good as it can be. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys, that is just one teeny tiny example of this week when I truly am living in my gifts and talents, right? For whatever reason, I am blessed with the ability to read what you have or see what you have and respond authentically in that moment. And somehow my response is valuable. And I think part of that maybe is I'm insecure about why would my response be more valuable than anybody else's, or right? Like, there's all this crap in our heads that is just better when we put it down.
Yeah. Well, I do have some notes today because this has been such a profound theme in my life. But one of these notes is that when you are in your own truth, whatever it is that you're doing that is weird, whether it's giving really critical feedback or dyeing your hair green or talking about aliens, and writing about that, when you're in your own truth, it comes off as authentic and trustworthy. So if a different person was doing that, but it wasn't their truth, they were doing something they thought they should do, or they had other intentions, they had an agenda, it wouldn't come off the same ways. It's not about the topic or the behavior, it's about the authenticity. So when you're in your own truth, people can feel that. I can't tell you how many times people have said to me when I was younger, like, I don't usually like dyed hair, purple hair, green hair, blue hair, but for you it just feels so natural. Or in this case with aliens and grouping and all this kind of like weird metaphysical supernatural stuff, like people call my work grounded paranormal, and it's like, it's because it feels authentic. Carrie tells me all the time, like, you're just so matter of fact about it, it doesn't feel too out there. And I'm like, because it's my truth, it is my normal grounded day-to-day stuff. So we have to embrace our truth somehow. You don't have to do anything, but it helps if you're feeling insecure about it, and just realizing that we don't need to freak out so much about being accepted by the world, because that's what the fear really is. I'm going to get disowned. Nobody's going to care about me anymore. Nobody wants to hear this. I'm not really contributing anything here. It's that if we're our honest, truthful self, we are going to be embraced. And that's exactly what I have found. I can't say 100% of the time because we can't control the responses of other people. But most of the time, when I am my honest, authentic self, regardless of how strange something might be, or how afraid I am of what is going to happen, as long as I'm truthful, it goes really well.
So I feel like we need to talk about like what you guys in the chat as well, like what we're insecure about, what we're afraid about. Like, I'm thinking about, I remember, so I had, as you were talking about being embraced, I remember that when I first started this coaching, this entrepreneurial like adventure, I was so insecure about success, about seeming successful, about being successful. So, like, part of my story is success has always come easily. So, I was a very successful student, and I didn't have to work very hard. I did work hard as an athlete. Like, of course, I worked hard, but also I was a very successful athlete. Like, I'm recognizing now way more successful than like so much of the population. You know, at the time I was just sort of living in that realm, but like super successful as an athlete. I was able to create successful environments. So like teams that I was on became successful because I was on them, and not because of the talent that I brought, like athletic talent that I brought, but because of like the leadership that I brought and the vision, right? So, anyways, but I couldn't verbalize any of that at the time. And I just had, I think the whole time I kind of felt like a fraud, right? And so when I came to my business and I listened to all these people telling me like how to brand myself and how to show up and like what makes you unique and what, like, I felt so insecure. Like there's nothing special about me. And who am I to think I'm any better than anybody else at this? And looking around at other people who've been successful. And anyways, all of that to be said is I spent years trying to polish this, trying to be professional, trying to appear a certain way. And one day, and this was it was in a private group setting, so it wasn't public yet, but one day I went live in a group from my car in my running clothes. And I had never done that. I'd always shown up with makeup on and hair done and like, professional. And I got so much positive feedback. It was like, "Oh my God, this is you. It's so great seeing you this way." It was like something that I was insecure about, not looking professional. It was the thing. It was the thing that like for the first time people saw me and wanted to pay attention to me and responded to what I was saying. And like, maybe I was more vulnerable in the moment. I don't remember what I said, but it was just like, even people said like, "Oh, it's so good to see you in your running stuff. Like, it's so good to see you that way." Um, I forget why I'm saying that, except for that was one little thing that I was insecure about, right? I was insecure about, frankly, just being where I was in my stage of business. I was afraid to tell the truth because I thought I had to appear a certain way. Yeah, what were you? Go ahead, Rachel.
You're afraid to be yourself.
Yeah. Because myself, in my head, myself wasn't good enough yet.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out she was perfect.
Yeah, I see this as a really big theme amongst new entrepreneurs. Instead of them trying to figure out what they would want to talk about, how they want to be in their business, what's natural for them, what's so easy for them that they don't give it value, and then create something around that, which is what I help people do, frankly. And in our full intuitive art certification, we walk you through this entire process with coaching, with feedback, because it's so important and is such a shortcut to your success because it creates authenticity and trust with your potential clients. But what most people do is what they think they should do or what they have to do in order to have success, which is mold themselves into something else. And it's understandable because we think, I'm not an entrepreneur now. I don't have a successful business. What do I need to be in order to have that? Well, I need to be different. But it's not the case, right? You have a desire to make your own money, to have your own success. You already have everything you need inside of you to do that. Maybe you need a little education, some guidance, some software, whatever it is, but it doesn't require you to fundamentally change. And I will say that, but I'll also say that we can have beliefs about ourselves that can get in the way. Like, I remember when I was first starting out, I had a lot of beliefs like I could never deliver a sales call because that's salesy and that's wrong, and I would never be that kind of person. And when we feel that, we can feel, oh, that doesn't make me feel good to think that. I'm constricted in this belief. I'm constricted in this feeling of limitation and judgment, really. And so I did learn how to give those calls, and I learned, oh, it's just about learning about people's dreams. And I learned I didn't have to include all of the parts that didn't feel good because the things that don't feel good aren't our truth. Ding, 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 ding. So if you can learn to navigate the world and your journey, whatever it is, by focusing on what feels truthful, what feels good, you're going to get to where you want to go, and it won't require you doing anything that doesn't feel good. I'm navigating a huge process like that right now in an environment that's like totally amazingly competitive and cutthroat, and there's all these, people stealing your work and all this stuff, and it's like, no, that's not going to be my journey because I'm only doing what feels good, and it's going really well. So just know that you being you is your ticket to success. And anything that you feel insecure about doesn't need to be a part of the journey. You don't need to have the insecurity. Be yourself, and doors will open.
So Jana just commented on imposter syndrome, and Guillaume said, like, I admit I have a lot of insecurities. Like, yeah, me too. Like, let's just all raise our hands. We have a lot of insecurities. I think I heard so my best friend is a therapist, my best friend from college, and she and I go back and forth on Marco Polo regularly. And she was talking to my oldest daughter, and I think my oldest daughter was saying something like, I don't know, what are they going to think? Are they going to judge me? She's in high school, which, like, being insecure in high school, that's everyone's insecurity. But like, everyone is insecure and afraid of what everyone else is thinking about them, that nobody's actually like thinking about anybody else. And that is what my friend said. I think Quinn was talking about her outfit. Like, does this look she had not showered before school, so she was doing like a pull her greasy hair back and put on some good smelling lotion, and she's like, do I look like I haven't showered? And that's exactly what my friend said to her, was like, I promise you, no one is looking at you and wondering if you showered. Everyone is worried about what everyone is thinking about them. And now I don't remember exactly why I started to say this, Rachel, except for we're all like worried about what everybody else is thinking. We're too busy worried about what everybody else is thinking, and not so concerned um like about, well, how do I feel about this? Well, how does this make me feel? Do it, like, I'm thinking about, does this make me look fat? Right? It's like, well, the better question is, do I feel good wearing it? Do I love it? Right? Like, if I love it, it doesn't make me look fat. If I love it, like, I look amazing in it. Um, if I'm wearing it because I think it's the right style or it sends the right message, right? But it doesn't feel great, it's probably not sending the right message. Might make my butt look big.
When I was in high school, I was clinically depressed, prescribed medication, and my mom called me a zombie. I like literally lost my personality. I wasn't smiling for years. And like, I went from a kid who was really well adjusted and popular and a jock and like great in school to that. It was quite a drastic change for those around me. I was too in it to really notice, I was just kind of like hanging on for dear life. But I remember that I loved art all throughout my entire life. And I would, draw and make these like found object sculptures. And in my high school, you could apply for a program that sent you to art school for half the day. and I decided I was going to apply. It was my junior year. I was really literally hanging on for dear life. My therapist even wrote me notes like I didn't have to speak in class basically because I was too anxious for that. So I had to have an interview to get into this program. So I took my little sculptures and a couple paintings and I brought them to another town and I like waited. And then when I went in, put my stuff down on the table, here I am, not used to talking to strangers, especially sharing my art. But you know what happened? The art was me, right? It was my escape. It was my thing. It wasn't anything anyone told me to do. And I fucking lit up. I don't really swear here, but like I came to life. I probably wasn't the most bubbly person they've ever met, but I was able to speak and I got into it and I wasn't nervous anymore. And they were thrilled that I had art and not just another, drawing of an anime character that they'd probably seen 100 of that day. And it went really well. And I got in because I just shared my truth and I just showed up. And I was freaking nervous. Like, I didn't know if I'd be able to do that. But because I relied on myself and my truth and something that was intrinsically valuable to me, which is art, it went really well. And so a lot of our own insecurities come from looking outside instead of looking within at the things that we are naturally energized by, engaged by, curious about. And when we can switch that view, that point of view, right, from outer to inner, then our whole world can change. And it's pretty situational, right? Like I left that place. Maybe I was happy for a few hours, but I went back to being depressed. But when I got back into an environment where I was engaging my real self, I would perk back up again. So, what I really want to say here is like, on a bigger level, we are in bodies. We are not really physical. We are non physical. We are pulling energy from a lot of different places, a lot of different star systems that we've, been at before, different realms. There are different cultures in all of these places. And so the things that make you weird are just the naturalness that you're pulling from other places. Like, why do I have feelings about, like different relationship types being natural or different hair colors being natural? Or why does Intimate Alien draw all of this stuff all over her face, right? Like, natural is different to everyone. And we're not here on this planet to be homogenous. We're here to be unique pillars pulling our own energy forward and to be ourselves. We're not here to fit in. So that's why we all have all these differences. And it's okay to rely on that and to really tap into that for your own sense of well-being. Don't look outside of you for well-being because, like Carrie said, everyone's just focusing on themselves. Nobody cares what you do. Or if they do, it's because they think they're trying to help you. But obviously, they're not. Put your hands up. Tell everybody to focus on themselves and then cultivate your own sense of worthiness.
Oh, you made me think there's like a viral YouTube, it's probably on TikTok now or like whatever, of a little kid in their car seat. And they're like, have you seen this, Rachel? They're like, worry about yourself. Like they're mad. Their mom's like trying to help them or something. And she's like, worry about yourself. So that is what I am thinking about. And I realized I didn't get back to you, Jana. I got off on a tangent. Shocking. But about imposter syndrome. And you said, I know I'm qualified to do what I do well, but I still hold back a lot. Amen, sister. Same, same, same. And because I know Jana is like super into human design, I will tell you that Rachel and I both like did our did our little free online human design thing. And we found out that we are both easy breezy geniuses. And I want to say, Jana, I don't know if that is your human design or not, but when I think of you, that is what I think of, that you are like so far beyond qualified because you're a freaking genius. You are, God, you have amazing comedic timing. You can be like loving and sarcastic and wise and kind, like all in the same sentence. And you are like multifaceted. And of course, you're multidimensional. And you have there are so many like facets, is the right word, of you, right? I feel like people know you. People feel close and know you in so many different ways. But anyways, the reason I'm saying this is like, yeah, we've all got imposter syndrome. And I only know, like, I know Jana in like little bits and pieces here and there. But Jana, I am drawn in. And I believe that anytime you show up, anytime you put anything out there, I made you cry. Yay. I do enjoy making people cry. But like I feel you and I want more, right? And it's so interesting because oftentimes I will say, Jana, I saw that thing you did, like, oh, I almost didn't post it. I was so worried, right? And that's what we're talking about here today, right? Just like I started with like I gave some feedback and I was so worried about it and it was like life-changing for that human, right? Jana wants to put pieces of herself out into the world and is worried and yet everything she puts out, right? I'm like, oh, great, helpful, amazing, right? And that's the point, right? Is when you're in you, when you are flowing you through you, no matter how weird. This is the other thing, you guys. I feel like we live in the weirdest time where, at least in the West, right? In the United States, we're like sort of conditioned into sameness, right? Conditioned into what is acceptable, conditioned into blah, blah, blah. But we worship the people who aren't, you know? Like, I find that so interesting that, like, we're sort of told, like, everybody wear these clothes, they're the cool clothes. Everybody, like, do this makeup, it's the cool makeup. Everybody don't do that, that's lame. And then, like, someone's brave enough to break the mold, and we're all like, oh, now let's, now let's do that. Go
I
ahead.
love this. I love studying exceptions, because it helps reinforce to me that it's all vibrational and lots of other things. You can do anything, you can have anything. And this is one of the things I used to rely on heavily is that, you think about somebody like Lady Gaga or Michael Jackson or, David Bowie. The weirdos before they're famous are usually chastised and chopped down and on the worst dress list, and nobody, they're a niche. Like they are not accepted by the whole of the world until they get famous, of course, and then of course they have fame and money and everybody wants to be them and be their friend. And the thing is, though, those people have a core group as they're going up. And if they can just pay attention to that and the inner drive to be who they are, they're going to make it. They're going to find their own version of success. And I'm not just talking about, people who are in the entertainment industry, but you think about Oprah's story as well. She knew what she wanted to do because it was inside of her. She wanted to be in broadcasting. She wanted to be in front of the camera and working with people and connecting. And so many people told her, like, no, just stay small. Don't take the other job. You're lucky you're on the air. And that is why it's so important to have your own sense of yourself. Who cares what other people think you should do? I mean, maybe it's just because like I'm female and I'm kind of smallish, like I'm short. People have a delight in telling me what to do or not do. And there's always a reason for it. It comes out of love. It's fine. But like if I were to listen to them, I would not be here with you today. Like it's totally okay to listen lovingly or to put up a boundary and say, we're not going to talk about this, and then to just go your own way, regardless of the opinions of other people. And I have to say that is such a great skill, especially when you are feeling like there is more of you that you want to share with the world. There is more. Like if you're starting a business, you want to be a certain kind of facilitator, you want to talk about certain topics, like don't necessarily base what you're going to do on who's already doing it. You probably have a different way you want to express that, or a different way you want to make a product or see clients. And that's really important because, again, your power, your magnetism, your authenticity comes from you being you, not you trying to fit yourself into a mold. And the thing with imposter syndrome, the reason why our anxieties get bigger is because we don't do the step that's right in front of us. If we can do the one little thing we're capable of doing right now, then we're going to get the other thing that we're capable of doing now. And we just put one foot in front of the other. And all of a sudden, that anxiety turns into movement, and we're feeling pretty good about it. And so it's really unrealistic to be completely confident about something you've never done before, especially if you're looking at the whole big picture. I don't know how to run a team. I don't know how to manage my books. I don't know how to do all this. Don't worry about all of that. Just focus on what you are capable of doing right now, and why are you there? Why are you excited to move forward? Get that going in your body, and then it's going to be a lot easier to move forward. Like, what happens if I sell a show? I don't know how to be a showrunner. I've never been on a set. I don't know how to do any of that stuff, but there will be people there to help me. There will be, guidance. People will put in positions to do whatever I don't know how to do. And I don't need to know about that now. Right now, all I need to know is what is right in front of me.
And I will say, yes, you do. You totally know how to do it, because you don't know that you know how to do it, right? But when you're there, you'll know. You'll know what, like, you'll do things differently than maybe other people have. There will be a way it's done and a way Rachel feels like it needs to be done. And that's the way that you listen to, right?
But also, like, you'll learn along the way
Yes,
too. Like,
yes.
yes, there's no need to worry about any part of the process. Like, wow, there's no need to worry about any part of the process. It's all being taken care of. You'll know what you need to know when you get there. And if you don't, there will be people there to help you.
Amen to that. So last week, you guys, I told you a story of my friend Alana, and how she became the prolific novel writer that she had always dreamed of becoming. So today, I'm going to tell you a story about a very insecure, awkward kid who okay, I'll just tell you a story. So this kid, my husband and I coached him when he was a high school cross country runner. And one of the things that I love about high school cross country, especially high school boys cross country, is it often brings the nerdiest kids in the school together, right? Like, it's sort of the sport for kids who don't make other sports, or the sports for kids who are too small or not strong or like not athletic find their way into cross country. And one of the things that I absolutely adore about this sport is that none of that matters, because if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, if you keep showing up every day and doing the work, you get better. And usually along the way, you find a love of running and a love of your teammates and confidence in yourself, because you're watching yourself get better every day. And I can't say enough about how amazing high school cross country is. And we had this kid that we coached. His name is Nick Waterhouse. And Nick Waterhouse was by far just the cutest, most awkward. If you can imagine 100 pounds of head and glasses, like he was that. But man, did we love this kid. Like, he was quirky, he was weird, he was smart as a whip. He made sarcastic comments, and we just fell in love with this kid instantly. Terrible runner. But we loved having him around. And so, over the years, and he showed up and he had his good attitude and he did the work. But it was pretty clear to us that Nick came to be a part of the team. He didn't have a ton of interest in being a great runner. But he did want to get better. But that wasn't his main concern. And this kid was so smart. And he was friends with all these other smart kids. And we spent 4 years with this kid. So here's the thing. in the beginning of his 4 years, he was awkward and he was insecure and he was dealing with all of the things that you might expect a kid who that I just described might be dealing with in high school. And then somewhere along the way, or maybe he always knew, right? He just refused to not be himself. So even though he was weird and awkward, and there was this whole phase where he dressed like Austin Powers, right? And where, like, I mean, he had like white Italian shoes and ruffly clothes and all of it. And he would talk with my husband Jim. They would talk music all the time. So, you know, they would spend their entire run talking about this band or that band. And Nick was a kid who grew up playing instruments and like super smart. And somewhere in his high school career, he and a bunch of his nerdy friends put a band together. And I don't remember what it was called, but it had like some fun nerdy band name. Like it was a clever band name. Um, and somewhere in his high school career, even though he's like taking AP everything and, you know, he could, I am sure that all of his teachers and counselors and everyone was telling him, like, yes, you are bound for MIT. You can be like an astrophysicist or whatever. Or, you know, I don't know what exactly where his talents lied, except for that he was in all the big nerdy classes. I keep saying that as if I wasn't a nerd and in all those classes, by the way, just raising my hand. So, anyways, point being is somewhere in his high school career, he just decided this is who I am and I am not hiding it. And he and his band started, like, he was like way more interested in booking gigs for his band than he was, you know, doing all the like being involved in academic decathlons and things like that. And like he and his band, like he took his band really seriously and they became like kind of popular and were booking gigs. And then they were in the talent show. And suddenly this person who people were like making fun of when he was younger because he didn't fold, because he didn't stop being himself, because he kept bravely doing it and showing like, hey, look at, we put this band together and we're pretty good. And he was dressing like Austin Powers. And I think people were like, that's brave, right? Like people just began to respect him. And I thought it was the coolest thing that by the time he was a senior, this kid who like everyone made fun of as a freshman, he was prom king. Like he was like a big deal. And then his band broke up because everyone went to college and they all did go off to become astrophysicists and whatever else they became. And Nick followed the music, like followed his career into the music industry. And I don't know his whole story. I don't know what people were telling him. I can just imagine that like a lot of well-meaning people in his life were saying, don't do it. People don't succeed there. Like you have too much going for you to become a musician, right? But he has become a wildly successful musician. He's become an amazing musician. It has been so fun to follow him and see that he's like touring around the world and see and hear his music being played. Like one of the things was there was a like a Lexus commercial in the Super Bowl and there was Nick like there playing with fireworks and hearing his music in movies and in right, like it is amazing the career. And he has like a big following and he's doing so well and he's built this. I mean, my husband's like a music buff, so like so often he'll be like, I don't know, watching some music show or something and be like, there's Nick, like there he is. And that's what we're talking about here. Like he could have stayed insecure about it. He could have, like, I'm sure it was very scary. He talks about that he became a reluctant singer because he's the singer and he's like didn't see himself as a singer or a front man. But he did, and he is, and he's made a whole career out of that. So those are maybe I'm just going to start name dropping every week, like picking a success story. But I just think it's so valuable to like look at those stories, the Oprahs and the Nick Waterhouses, and like we only see them like and their brave fashion moves or their whatever, like once the world is looking at them. But everybody started out as an outlier or a weirdo or as insecure. Like, I mean, Oprah, right? People are like, girl, you are an overweight Black woman. You're not going to have your own show. Like, that's not who we're looking for. And, you know, that was wrong. So
I know. One of the YouTubers I used to watch a lot of, who has millions of followers, makes millions a year, has multiple channels now, lives in a multi-million-dollar home, like, posted on Reddit a few years before he started his channel, like, I really would love to talk about this stuff, but I need to find a different host because I don't have the personality for YouTube. Like, well, he never found somebody else, and so he just decided to do it a couple years later, and look what happened. And it did not take long. It took maybe a year and a half to really get there, like have a viral video and get his first couple 100,000 subscribers. And you know, 0 subscribers to even 100,000 can take years and years. You could never get there. But what drives people forward who end up being successful is that they're listening to their inner selves and what they just really want to do. What do you just want to do today? Sometimes it's not even really. Sometimes it's just, I want to do this today. I don't know why. It sounds dumb, but maybe I'm going to do it. You know, we judge ourselves so much of like, if this isn't going to make me money or bring me some other kind of status, it's not worth doing. And the people I coach who are connected to themselves, who meditate, who are in this world, they know about the law of attraction, often fall into that because I often talk to like motivated type A people who have everything that they want, but want more and think that they need to be working themselves like crazy to get there. So this is just a little reminder. You are a non-physical being. We live in an energetic universe. Whatever you align vibrationally to will present itself to you. So when you focus on your truth, your authenticity, your naturalness, then all doors are open to you. And we can have a Nick Waterhouse story where all he had to do was choose himself and keep going. And he found himself in a really good position. All this YouTuber had to do was choose himself and keep going. And he found himself in a good position. A lot of the role models I look to now in the screenwriting business had to make something of themselves first. They had to create their own play. They had to, you know, rewrite comedy scripts on their own to learn the craft. Like they chose their own interests. They put time into that because it was fun for them. And that's what brought them into success. I'm seeing this for myself, you know, like do what you want to do and it'll lead you to really good places.
you're making me yawn, Rachel.
Good.
I hope that everybody watching is hearing that because I am the person you described. Type A, want big things, like all of it. And I do put stuff out there and I do like, and how many times a day do I not do it? Right? How many times a day do I think of like, oh, that would be cool. And then not, right? So, or I really want to, but it would be amazing, but right. And luckily for me, I've learned that if it keeps coming up, it's a just do it, right? But the buts usually are, who am I? I'm not right for it. There's so many other people who could have done it, who did it better, or there's already people doing that, right? There's so many lies that we tell ourselves out of our own insecurities, and what I love about your current story, Rachel, is that like none of that matters. So what Rachel is, she's been talking about her screenwriting a lot, but she had a project that she like, I don't know, did you write it just to do it? Did you write it like she had a project that was basically like sitting on a shelf that she didn't think anybody would want?
Yeah, I took a comedy writing class and I had to make something in the class. So I just did it to do it.
But that project, it's her truth. Like it's 100% her truth. And she was like, nobody would want that. And yet, just in a conversation this week, someone said, oh, I love this thing that you've presented me, but I already have something like that. What else do you have? And Rachel's like, I got this thing on my shelf. And they're like, oh my God, yes, yes, and more yes. That's it.
And I want to highlight that because, I'm working on something based on my teenage life. The thing that I think is most commercial about me, right? But we're all multifaceted beings and people. And oftentimes, the thing we create with no agenda, no, calculated future is actually the thing that holds more of our naturalness and our authenticity. So it's not like there's anything wrong with this other project. It's going to make it somehow. But it's the thing that I just did for fun as I was learning is, catching someone's attention right now. And again, who knows what's going to happen, but her reaction connected, right? It connected with the energy of the project because it was so resistance less. You know what I mean? Do you ever find that? I know a lot of people who blog or make videos are like, the thing that I just threw up there is the thing that everybody loved, the thing I toil over and I'm really proud of. Nobody watches or reads. That was Carrie's example of making the video from her car. She was just like, I'm just going to do it right now. It doesn't matter. That's what people respond to. They can feel that easy flow of energy, the lack of overthinking. It just gets to people. So it's important to remember that of like, oh, when I just be myself and I'm not worried or micromanaging or thinking too much, that really connects.
Which this leads me to what Jan is saying. So basically, pull the stuff off the shelf and dust it off. It's needed and necessary. I mean, maybe it depends on it depends on what's on your shelf and why you put it there. But yeah, yeah. And yes, channeled fiction is richer than autobiography sometimes, right? Sometimes.
Yeah, again, it's not about the topic or what it is, it's about the energy with which you create something. So all of that could be true, or all of that could be not true, depending on you.
Well, it's leading me to like, so I'm going to like kind of switch gears because a lot of the work that I wind up doing with clients is about their marketing, right? People are wanting to create a personal brand themselves, put their stuff out there. And I see this over polishing of things, this trying to make everything so on brand. And so that actually the easiness is lost. So this is coming up just because I'm remembering a conversation this week where someone was like, oh, look at what I did. Like they're really proud of what they did. They're like, I created all of these testimonial posts, but they were all these like perfect, beautiful things where they had taken somebody else's words and then put them into like this cutesy little format and like done this thing. And this is critical me was like, I'm afraid to criticize them on this because they did spend some time doing it. But you know what's way more powerful? In the moment, being excited when they get the text that says, thank you so much, screenshot that and put it up. Like that is the stuff. Like you're making it way too hard. You're overthinking, like you're trying too hard. And Rachel and I talk a lot about this. Like it's the thing you accidentally do when you're not trying. That's the stuff. And so while maybe some of those posts will be, oh, my watch thinks I'm riding a bike. Some of those posts maybe will go great because they're in like the energy and they were like super excited. Like, The bigger issue is, are you doing something because you think you should, because you think you have to, because it's meant to be a certain way? Are you doing something because like you can't not? And yeah, anyways, that client started posting a little bit more authentically in the week that followed, and I can't say for certain what her results were, but I will say that from my perspective, what I saw from her was way more like I was way more invested in what was coming from her than I ever had been in the past, because she stopped trying so hard.
Yeah. I mean, if I could give business owners one piece of advice, it would definitely be that. But it's also okay to experiment, and it's okay to do things the hard way, and it's okay to have, insecurities and feel limitations. Like, we're going to get through this no matter what. It's all okay. Like, this is not about perfection. It's not about doing something one way because you have to or you should. What this was really about is like, okay, who I am is enough. And I'm gonna be weird sometimes, and I'm gonna be awkward sometimes, and I'm gonna be scared sometimes, but I can remember sometimes to remind myself that I'm enough and I'm okay, and what I naturally want to say is right. And I know that my heart is in the right place, and I know that I can allow myself to relax over time. And I know that the one step that I can do now is within my reach. And I know that the next step will come. And just like relax and like let the micromanaging of your future go if you can. If that is possible for you, that will release so much resistance to knowing who you are right now and what you want right now, because this is really the only thing that matters is like, can I feel authentic in my life right now? Can I trust that I know what I want right now and that it's okay if that's different tomorrow? Like getting in the moment with yourself gives you so much information. And if you can get into that place, even just for a minute a day, it's really worthwhile and it will help you move forward into a future that feels richer and is more naturally successful.
Rachel's looking at me like it's your turn to talk, but I'm just like, yeah. I feel like one of the most powerful sentences that we can utter to you guys is, you can relax. You can relax. You have permission to trust yourself, and you can relax. And one of the things that was really helpful to me was hearing actually Jerry Hicks. So like the early Abraham Hicks stuff. And Jerry Hicks, there must be like an audio somewhere because I've heard it lots of times. And he is talking to Abraham and says, it seemed to me, or what I've noticed in my life is that, and I think maybe he read this in Napoleon Hill, but that you get the essence of whatever you wanted when you were a little kid. Like whatever you wanted your life to be when you were a little kid, you get the essence of that. And Abraham's response to that is sort of like, yeah, well, because you can't get it wrong. You can't miss your path. Like you're always being redirected through the path of least resistance to what you're asking for, right? So we could call that your calling or your purpose or like whatever it is, right? But it's in the weird, perfect, wonderful nature of you. And at least for me, and I think for so many of us now, right? Like the thing that we're being called to, for instance, YouTube wasn't a thing when we were kids, right? So like I had this calling to like show up and be authentic, and Oprah was my model when I was younger, right? Like watching, maybe I was a young adult, either way, like, oh, if I could do that, that would be amazing. Well, because this didn't exist, right? And who knows what's going to exist next? And that's sort of the point. Like you can relax, trust yourself, do what's in front of you, because you're not going to miss it. Whatever it is that you're asking for, man, it's coming to you. You don't have to worry about how weird or awkward, like, or anything that you are, because that's actually the perfection of you.
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to see it if you're not at least a little bit relaxed. That's the thing is like, I hated it when Abraham would always say, like, everything you want is already around you. You just can't see it because you're not in vibrational alignment with it. This kind of came up when Carrie and I realized we were millionaires. It was like, it had been true for a long time before we actually were able to see it. Did it change anything? Not really, but we were able to see it. We were able to line up with it vibrationally. Same thing happens for lots of people. Like they don't realize the steps they could take or the resources that are around them already or the actual tangible things they can take possession of if they're not in vibrational alignment with what they want, which most people are not, which is okay because it's still there. It doesn't change anything. But we need to be relaxed enough to allow this movement, this flow to happen. And so, yeah, and Carrie, exactly what you said. Like I wrote down being different and accepting that unlocks your potential and purpose. Accepting who you are, even if you feel like, oh, well, there's nothing weird about me. There you go. There's your weirdness. Like it doesn't need to be weird in the sense of like strange out there, woo woo or anything. It's just we all take for granted that everyone has the same thoughts as us, the same revelations, the same talents, the same skills because of things that are natural to us, when really we're all so vastly different. And what you come to the table with here is really, really valuable.
I know we have 3 minutes left, but you hit such a hot button for me. So I'm going to talk about it. And so, number one, please join us like in all of our programs. Just come join us, like be a part of our world. Go to intuitiveart.com and find your home there. Like find your place to be. Because yeah, it's an amazing world to be in. And you hit my hot button, Rachel, but I already lost it. Guess it wasn't as hot as I thought it was. It was about
Not being weird, but embracing yourself.
I'll just tell you guys that is no, it wasn't about not being weird. It was about being on this journey and knowing that it's constant, right? So just like we're always relaxing more and always finding more and always like the same is true with insecurities. And oh, this is found it. My biggest insecurity, like one of my biggest insecurities is that I am I lost it again, Rachel. How did I do that? What is happening here? Is it leaving me? Is that what's going on? Like that I can't twice. I've been like, this is it. This is the thing that I'm super insecure about. And it's gone.
Your vibrational alignment has transcended the insecurity.
Well, congrats to me.
Exactly what we help people do.
Oh, you guys. Thanks for witnessing that because I was trying to be helpful to you guys. And twice it came up and twice it's gone.
Well, and that brings us to the end. So, you guys, thank you so much for being here. We love these conversations so much. We appreciate you watching live and in the replay. Thank you, Jana, Zach, Guillaume, Jane, like everyone else who's been here live and everyone who's watching. So we'll see you next week. We love you and thank you. And visit us at intuitiveart.com.
And you're perfect and enough and wonderful and amazing.
Yes, yes, yes.